Hey, what's up, folks? I'm Isaac. I've been running a B2B lead generation agency for the last year and have been in sales for the last 4 years, where I've booked meetings with key stakeholders at billion-dollar enterprises, high growth technology startups, agencies, and commercial and small businesses. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about the exact omni-channel framework that I use to book meetings with decision makers at world-renowned companies like Dish and Sling TV, Vanguard, Outreach.io, Restoration Hardware, amongst others. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to actually approach selling to enterprise versus commercial and small businesses, building your lead lists in LinkedIn and third-party data providers, the keys to success for running cold email campaigns, LinkedIn prospecting, sending personalized Loom videos, and finally, I'm going to show you the exact cadence that I use to book meetings with billion-dollar companies. So in this video, I'm going to walk through the strategy for leveraging each of these channels in the prospecting process. Just considering the average of 8 touches that you need for a prospect to ultimately convert down your funnel, this framework should help you cover all of your bases. So let's dive in. All right, so first things first, how to approach selling to an enterprise versus a commercial or small business. Let's talk about enterprise first, right? So when selling to large enterprises, and I'm thinking about businesses that are $1 billion or more in revenue, there are always multiple stakeholders who weigh in on a buying decision, right? So given the complexity of enterprise sales deals, it's often necessary to target folks throughout the leadership spectrum. This includes individual contributors, managers, directors, VPs, all the way up to CXOs. So this is commonly referred to going high and wide in an organization. So for example, when selling a technical SaaS product to an enterprise, you'll need to get sign off from numerous stakeholders like the technical team. So these folks are going to be the users of the product. You're going to need to be okayed by the managers and the executive leadership. There's going to be the CFO organization or the economic buyer. And typically that is also going to include multiple steps to help you get through procurement. So by going high and wide, the strategy actually allows you to build awareness across the organization and helps you build trust as you work towards becoming like a known entity in the organization, and ultimately to the point where you're becoming a approved vendor, cut the check, become somebody you're actually partnership doing business with. Ultimately, leveraging multiple contacts at varying levels of seniority is known as a process called multi-threading. This allows all stakeholders to be in the know of what's happening in the deal, and so it really helps you prevent getting blocked at any point if you just have like a single champion or somebody who maybe doesn't quite have the decision-making capacity that you need. So by making sure that folks throughout the leadership spectrum are aware, then that's going to allow you to reduce the friction to getting that deal across the line. So now let's talk about like selling to commercial and small businesses. So obviously these businesses are smaller. So with less revenue and less size, typically that means these deals are going to be less complex. Typically the organizations are also going to have less hierarchy. So with respect to this, you still might want to target multiple individuals at an organization, but typically less will be required here. So oftentimes you can go right to the decision maker given the size of the company, right? So if it's a company with less than 50 people, you might always just be able to reach out to the CEO. But if you're reaching out to a company that's 1,000 or more employees, you're going to have to go through quite a few different rungs of leadership. So just understanding where your company sits from the perspective of size is going to be really instrumental in how you approach your prospecting. So another really important part of doing any sort of like selling approach is having a well-oiled sales process. And so a good sales process uncovers quite a few details throughout the buying cycle. You can't just go to a large enterprise or even just a small business and say, hey, this is a product, you want to buy it. You really need to uncover a business case as to why they actually want a product, a solution, or a tool like yours. And so the way that you get through this is by leveraging some popular sales frameworks. So you uncover these details in the discovery process, and at each step of the process and throughout the conversations that you're having, you want to be uncovering more and more information to make sure that you're really buttoning down all of the key factors that you need, right? So there's two popular frameworks that I'm going to quickly talk about. The first one, it's called BANT. So that stands for budget, authority, need, or timeline. So when it comes to budget, simply as, is this a project that currently has budget? Is there a line item already in the budget that exists for a solution like this? Or is this an entirely new product? Do they have to find room? Do they need to build a business case and find budget? And so understanding that is really important in knowing, are they even going to be able to afford a solution like yours today, tomorrow, or within the year? Next, talk about authority. So with authority, that's, are you talking to the right people? Do you have the decision makers involved in the process? Have they put their thumbprint on the process in order to properly sign off? If you're talking to somebody who is interested in your service and product, but is potentially too low level, then they might be all gung-ho and might be thumbs up on it. But if the person who's truly making the decision is not included in the process, then you're going to be out of luck. And so it's really important to truly understand who has the authority in the decision-making process. Next is going to be need. So need is, it's going to be around solving problems. Do you have a solution or tool that's solving a true business problem? And so in selling to businesses, people are not going to be buying necessarily nice to have right now, especially in this economic environment. You need to show clear ROI. They need to have real pain points, and they need to be feeling a way that is ultimately going to compel them to want to make a change. And so uncovering that need and uncovering why them, why now, is incredibly important in truly getting that deal closed. And if you don't have a true need, then it's likely that you're not going to be prioritized. And if you're not prioritized, the deal won't close. So not having an understanding for the need is going to put you in a bad spot. So finally, timeline. So is there a specific timeline associated with this initiative, or is this going to be a long drawn out process? Do they need the decision to be made today or tomorrow or in the next quarter or in the next year? And so understanding that is going to give you the information that you need in order to continue to push the deal along at the correct pace. If they're not prioritizing it, either you need to present a way in which and reason why they need to prioritize this more, or perhaps it's completely out of the control, and so you need to just align yourself with their process. And so understanding that, it's going to allow you to not spin your wheels too much. So MedPick is the second of the two. So first we had BANT, next we have MedPick. And so MedPick is a little more nuanced. It's got a few more data points that you need to uncover, but it stands for metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, identify pain, and champion. So some of these overlap, but metrics is there ROI associated with the deal? What does that look like? Again, in selling to businesses, you aren't going to just buy something because it looks cool, it's shiny, it's nice, it's the next new thing. It needs to have a purpose as to why it's actually being brought on. And so metrics is really just, showing that ROI. Economic buyer, this is similar to like the authority part in BANT, but basically oftentimes when you're selling in an enterprise situation, the person who's actually signing the check might not be the one who's using the tool or even in the same organization. And so you need to understand the economic buyer, and you need to understand who they are and make sure that they're kept abreast of all progress, and make sure that you're checking all the boxes to ultimately get them on board and ultimately use their budget to allocate towards your service. Next, we're going to talk about decision criteria. So decision criteria is simply the steps that they're going to be taking in order to bring on a new vendor. And so this is definitely case by case, but really, like, you need to be able to sign off on legal compliance. You need to be an approved vendor. You need to have all of these things in order to truly become a trusted partner with your prospect and ultimately your client or your customer. Next is decision process. So what are the actual steps that they need to go through in order to actually close the deal? This is similar to like the decision criteria, but criteria is more of like check boxes. The process is, what are the actual key milestones that you need to achieve in order to, again, get that deal across the line? Last, identify pain. This is similar to need. They need to have a pain. If there isn't a pain, then they're not going to move forward. And so identifying that and driving that home and what's called twisting the knife and making sure that they know the pain and what happens if they don't. So many deals are lost to current state or not doing anything. And so that is oftentimes a failure on the sales process to truly identify and target that pain point. So it might not exist enough. Last one is champion. You need to know who the key stakeholders are, but in a large organization, you need to have a champion. So they're going to be the ones who's basically the spear into the org. So those are going to be the folks who are, advocating for you internally. They're going to be the ones potentially giving you referrals internally. They're the one that is going to be getting you additional information, paperwork, other key odds and ends that you need to uncover to truly understand the lay of the land and the process. And so that's really important in understanding. So those are the two frameworks that I'm going to quickly talk about today on just selling to enterprises versus commercial and small businesses. So just like taking a step back and thinking about prospecting, right? What is prospecting? What's the goal of it, right? It's literally to fill the fat of your funnel. And so that means simply getting the prospect to move to the next step in the funnel. And so you really don't need to attempt to make a sale on the first touch. You don't need to make an attempt to sell them on the second or third touch, right? In a typical enterprise sale or even just a regular commercial sale, the prospect oftentimes has to go through a number of steps after they've even agreed to a single meeting, right? So you have a meeting, you might then agree to a demo, which then moves into a POC evaluation, which could be from as quick as a couple of days to months long evaluation process. From there, you get the technical sign off, the legal sign off, procurement needs to sign off, and finally you get that economic buyer to actually cut the check. And so all of those steps need to happen. So in that first touch, saying, giving them pricing and giving somebody a quote isn't going to be the way to do it. Better goal is to try to achieve one of a few things that I'm about to mention here, right? So first and foremost, the goal of prospecting is just book a meeting, get inside the organization, start a conversation. If you can't book a meeting, get a referral. Find somebody who might be more relevant within the organization. This could be somebody who is completely unrelated or just a step down, right? Oftentimes when you're dealing with large organizations, it's a bit of a hypothesis as far as like who you're going after. And so sometimes you're taking a shot in the dark and you might have done your research and you've targeted them, but they're just not the right person. And so that's what a referral will do. It will get you back on track towards the right individual. Another thing you might want to do, or another goal you should do if you can't book a meeting or get a referral, is just get some information out of them about the current state of affairs at the company. Things like, what are they doing today? What solutions are they using? Are they even in the market for your service? What are their priorities? What are the things that they're thinking about today, tomorrow, this quarter? And do they even align with your solution? Are those initiatives going to be something that you can align on in the near future or in the next year? And so these three important check marks to try to go after as far as goals in prospecting These are important, like positives. If you can't get to those, simply try to get to a no. And so the reason being is, you might think getting somebody to say no to me is not necessarily a good thing, but in fact, that's not true. And the reason why it isn't true is because you don't have to waste resources on somebody if they've already told you no. So the disqualifying process is equally as important as qualifying. And so you really don't want to waste your resources on a prospect who has no chance of closing. So that is pretty much just the quick and dirty on how to approach selling to an enterprise versus selling to a commercial business. So now I'm going to go through building a lead list in LinkedIn, also using third-party data providers. So on a high level, LinkedIn's a really great service because it's user-generated data. And so if you think about when anybody is getting a new job, they're going to go and update their data on LinkedIn almost immediately. And so that's why LinkedIn data is going to be the most up-to-date. Third-party data providers are finding their data elsewhere. And so oftentimes there could be a lag or some of that data could be stale. And this is important because you want to be reaching out to people at the right company with the right contact information. And if they don't exist or the contact information is bad, then you're wasting your resources. So this is just part of the process, right? So first step is, thinking about this in the context of account-based prospecting. So first and foremost, you want to identify your high intent accounts. So this is based on your ideal customer profile. So for example, think about things like the vertical or niche that your prospect is in, the geography that they're in, the company size, the job title, and the function. Another way in which you can target companies is look for trigger events that indicate demand for your product or service. And so a couple ways in which you can do this: new job postings, new funding announcements, new product or service launch, new executive leadership, awards, press releases, and other headline events. So once you've created a targeted account list, you want to enrich your target account data with other services like Apollo or ZoomInfo. So this list is going to be the foundation for your outreach. So some of those key data points that you want to include are things like your company, their company name, the URL, the LinkedIn URL, some of the main keywords associated with the company, their SEO description, some of the technologies that they use, the funding amounts if you're selling to startups, and then revenue figures. These are all important because you want to be able to triangulate and sort of find patterns in the customers and the clients that you end up working with on a long-term basis. And so understanding this and keeping this data is helpful to make sure that you're just like segmenting and targeting properly on an ongoing basis. So now that we have a target list of companies that match our profile, what we want to do now is we want to actually go in and identify these prospects. So what you can do is leverage LinkedIn Sales Navigator or these other third-party data providers, segment the list based on some common factors, and then find those titles that are going to be associated with your ideal customer. I'm going to go into some LinkedIn prospecting basics and how to build lists in future videos, but this is just a quick summary on it. Once you go through those platforms and you actually are able to build the list of those leads, what you want to do now is you want to verify your data. So if you're doing cold email campaigns, you really need to make sure that you're verifying your email addresses. And so some services you can use: Never Bounce, Million Verifier. Those are two popular ones. There's a million others. And so leverage those. The thing here is that's so essential is by validating your data, again, first and foremost, you're not wasting resources. And so if you're not spending time cleaning and scrubbing data for people that don't exist or are at a different company, then you're going to be just that much further ahead. But not only that, is cleaning your data is essential in maintaining your domain health. So when you're sending cold emails, you need to make sure that you're sending only to valid emails. If you're sending invalid emails, those emails will bounce. And if you get a high bounce rate, that's going to negatively impact your cold email deliverability. And so if you have a low bounce rate, not only is it improve your deliverability, but it's going to keep you out of spam folders and promotions folders. Those are both graveyards. You can expect your emails to never be written or read if they're in there. So you want to try your best to really, really, really clean and scrub your data. And so that's just absolutely an essential part. So that's a little bit of a quick summary on just some LinkedIn prospecting. I'm going to go quickly talk. Whoops, what the heck's going on? All right, so now I'm going to talk about cold email keys to success. So now you have a verified list of contacts. It's now time to begin reaching out to those contacts with targeted messaging. And so again, it's just very important to understand that, if you're sending a lot of messages, you need to be making sure that your messaging resonates with your persona or avatar that you're actually reaching out to. And so we're going to talk a little bit about copywriting in just a second. But before that, basically the steps that you need to do is you need to set up a couple domains, leverage a sending tool like something like QuickMail or Instantly. And to do this properly, I will go over this in a future video, but that's part of the process. So further, any successful cold campaign needs to be paired with an offer that solves a real problem. Going back to the diligence process, like you need to have a pain and you need to have a problem that you're truly solving for. So in order for any cold campaign to be successful, again, you need to have that offer that solves a problem that also delivers on its promise and is in a growing market. If it's a dying market, then you're going to have to be working twice as hard to even just maintain your revenue base. So just a couple things to think about. But copywriting, keys to success here. 3 major factors: positioning, personalization, and a short question-based call to action. So for positioning, it's essential to properly position your service in order to get results, right? So do this by presenting results via your offer mechanism. So an example of just a framework that you can use is, in just 1 month of working together, we helped X company increase their monthly revenue from Y to Z by using our process and mechanism. Simple framework you can use to show a prospect the results that you get via your mechanism in an amount of time. Next step, personalization. So this captures your prospect's attention by showing that you've spent the time to do some research. It also helps bolster some trust. And again, it starts building on that trust building process. And so some good examples of personalization include paying somebody a compliment on their recent case study, a blog post that they put out, or even like a YouTube video. Another way to do this is just make a comment on their background, their interests, or companies that they worked for in the past or are currently working for. So one example of a compliment is, hey, I saw you were on the board for the biggest food rescue organization in the United States. You're making a huge impact. Keep it up. Something that's short, concise, earnest. People want to respond to other people. And so it's not guaranteed that if you personalize, somebody will get back to you, but it will increase your chances. And then the last sort of part of the framework here for copywriting is just like a short and question-based call to action, right? So my most successful campaigns have been driven by really concise and direct messaging, many of which, many emails are going to be like even less than just 5 sentences. So in general, you got to think about attention spans. People don't have an attention span to read a novel and blocks of text. So you can't really talk about your solution from A to Z. And so what you need to do is keep that attention and capitalize on that short attention span by focusing exclusively on the prospect. It's not about you. It's always about the prospect. And so focus on their problems and what you can do for them and how you can solve that problem, which will then compel the prospect to react to your call to action. So a simple basic call to action would be something like, any interest in learning how we can do something similar for your company? A quick overview on the ins and outs of, a cold campaign. Typically, you're going to be sending these out to prospects in a very segmented way. But next, let's talk a little bit about prospecting on LinkedIn. If I can get it here. All right. So LinkedIn's a social platform, right? And the algorithm favors those who engage. Key here is social. The platform's purpose is for users to make real connections and network. That means things like commenting, liking other creators' content, posting your own content, and then engaging with your audience on your post. So if somebody puts a comment on your post, respond to them in kind, give them a like, things like that, build relationships. The algorithm is going to, recognize that and increase your reach if you are choosing to post. The next step that's super important here for LinkedIn prospecting is going to be optimizing your profile for the viewer, right? So keep in mind that your profile is your landing page. So your prospects are going to be popping on your page. You need to always consider from their perspective and how they see the world. So here's like a quick 5-step checklist in order to optimize your profile. And again, if you want this document written out, I have it on my Notion, and I will include it in the information below. But that's where you'll be able to find it. And so the 5 steps is, first and foremost, you want to have an updated and professional profile picture, right? So this should be a clear headshot and should be a high quality image. Ideally, your face fills up around 2/3 of the icon space. Shouldn't be too far away. It shouldn't be too close, but it just needs to be clear. I think a smile is nice, but, do what's best for you. Next step is have your banner clearly present why someone should follow you or connect with you. So this is basically like your billboard. Think of this as like your free advertising space and should include a summary of your offer. Very simply, single sentence or a couple sentences. And then if you have some social proof and you can provide it, pop it on there. The next step is you want to use your headline creatively, showing who you help and the results you achieve. Way to kind of come up with an idea here would be to ask yourself these couple questions. Who do you help? How do you help them? And then what's your unique mechanism? You can think about those 3 and put them into a singular sentence. You got yourself a nice headline. The next step is using your summary section to highlight your story and who you help. Again, these things are all about who you help. Think about things from the prospect's perspective. In all outreach, it's all about the prospect. That is just like the golden rule here. And so, if you're having some trouble with your own summary section, I recommend looking at some other content creators in your niche or some people that you look up to and, mirror your summary off theirs. Don't copy it, but, you can use it for inspiration. And so the key or a key here is don't forget to add some personality. This is your page. It's not a CV. It's not a resume. Like, it doesn't need to be all business. You can talk about some of the things that you're interested in. Just talk about your story. Again, like, people are people and they connect with other people. And so on a social platform, especially, it's like imperative to show that human element, especially as AI becomes more and more popular. There's going to be more, basic content out there. And so it's really important to just add personality and flair into all that you do. So the next step here is going to be simple, right? So going back to the actual prospecting portion, and what we're going to do is we're going to start building some lead lists, right? So we had target audience and we built our lists. So now we want to start actually connecting with folks. So you might want to send around 10 to 20 outbound connection requests per day. And in my experience, a blank connection request beats any level of customization given you have an optimized profile. So I've tested, some custom connection ads, and I did an A/B test, and the blank outperformed by far. It's also way less work. So I would recommend going that route, but do, what you think. could be best, and test it yourself. With any of this, test. That's the key. You're always making a best guess, always just iterating off of that best guess given the data that you have. And so just always be testing. So, after you've actually connected with people and they've accepted, start that conversation and start being social, right? So make a comment on their profile in a DM, right? So anything that stands out or is interesting to you. So for me specifically, I've booked meetings with senior decision makers by just making an offhand comment that's completely unrelated to business or work. And so, for example, I booked a meeting with a senior decision maker at a global streaming TV service. And so the way that I did it was I just started a conversation in our DMs about a mutual interest in growing organic vegetables. It's something that I do. I saw it clearly on his profile. We reached out, we started a conversation, ended up going through, the funnel, and they booked the meeting. And so now we're in advanced conversations. And so that to me is a testament to just like being human. Key name of the game, especially on social networks. So there are varying schools of thought with the next point here about don't make your first touch a pitch. Some people, if it's a pure like cold campaign, then yeah, you might want to do that. But if you're just going a little more soft, I'm not saying don't pitch, but basically after you've made a touch after connection, making a comment, liking a post, whatever, like hitting them up in their DMs on something that's interesting, then you might want to weave in some pitch of your product, right? So like propose a meeting, or do something even a little softer, like, hey, I want to send you a Loom video to show you how I can help you, right? So an example of a call to action here could be like, hey, Name, many people similar to you are challenged with making sense of their abundant data. Are you currently struggling with this right now? You're not exactly pitching, you're starting a conversation on a pain point. And so by using that pain point, you understand, is this something that they care about? And if they do, then you're starting to move in the right direction. If they don't, maybe change the angle, or perhaps they're just not going to be a good fit. And then on an ongoing basis, continue to engage. Social relationships are built over time. And so if you continue to be in front of people and you continue to maintain attention, posting, commenting, building real relationships on the platform, you grow your network of ideal customers, and people become you become a trusted advisor to people because you're posting good content that shows your authority. And then lastly, we're going to talk very briefly on LinkedIn automation. There's a number of tools that do exist. I think it's technically not allowed by the platform, but they do exist if you wanted to leverage a tool with automation for your outreach. All right, we're coming to the end here. So personalized Loom video, keys to success. So the key to success with a Loom video is, you're wanting to add value here. So what I've done in the past is use this technique to actually help lock in a meeting. So I've been successful in sending Loom videos to prospects after prompting them in an email or a DM. So this is a powerful tactic because personalized videos really help build trust, and it shows that you put in extra work to reach out to somebody and you're adding value. And so the Loom videos that I've sent in the past have improved and boosted my conversion rates. But the key here is not selling. You want to be adding value and positioning yourself as an expert and a trusted advisor and a consultant that can help them solve their problems. And so again, here, like kind of the way that you might want to position this is depending on your offer, you can like send them an audit. So, if you do website development, something, or you work in ads, or you help them with, or you help folks with funnels, right? Like you can say that, hey, took a look at your website and, I came up with 3 strategies that you might be able to boost your conversion rates. Mind if I send you a video showing you how to do that? Or you could talk about something more related to like a case study, right? Like, hey, we work with this company. They look a lot like yours. We've achieved this result. You mind if I send over a quick Loom video that details this case study and could ultimately relate to your use case? And so that is a strategy in which you can get people to respond. You don't have to do the work up front by making the video and then sending it, and it might go unwatched. But if you ask for the permission, they've said yes, you put the video together, conversion rates go up quite a bit. And so here's just a very basic and simple framework for creating a Loom video. Basically, short and sweet, not more than 2 minutes. That's just pretty much the guardrails there. Again, think about people's attention. You're not going to have it for that long. So the way you want to start one of these videos is outline what you're going to cover in the video. In this video, I'm going to talk about X strategies that you can use to improve your conversions. Then you want to walk through the audit or the case study. And again, here, focus on providing your expertise and don't be pitching in this video at this time. So position yourself as, value add, showcase that expertise, and then provide those strategies or that case study that drives value. And so the purpose of this is they're going to see your face, you're going to be building trust, and you're going to push them further down the funnel. And so the last step here is just prescribe next steps, like a trusted advisor or like a doctor, right? You're the expert in the field. After all of these things, given the fact that you have found value here, it makes sense for us to have a conversation to talk about how we can achieve a similar result for your client. So make this very clear, make it succinct, and put it in the Loom video and then attach it to your email. Simple as that. And basically that's how you leverage a Loom video to boost your conversion rate. And so finally, here is the cadence that helps book meetings with billion-dollar companies. So this is an omni-channel cadence. And so this goes through emails and LinkedIn requests. And so in many cases, you're multi-threading not just an organization, but you're multi-threading a individual person on different kinds of platforms. And so you want to be showing up in their DMs, you want to show up in their email. If you're doing cold calling, you want to implement that as well. And so, you're just being at the right place at the right time. And so I'm not going to go through this whole document right now, but I'm going to scroll through it. If you want to, take a look, you can pause and check it out. But ultimately, that is the strategy that I've used to book meetings with billion-dollar companies. And so it's been very useful to me. I hope you, as the viewer, can find it interesting and have found value. If so, pop me a quick comment below, like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be putting content out on a much more regular basis and trying to teach folks and add value around sales, cold email, entrepreneurship, all that good kind of stuff. And, hope to see you along for the ride. But anyway, thanks for the time. Again, I'm Isaac, and I will chat with you soon. Thanks.